Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You know, we talk about scams quite a bit on this channel. We even sometimes talk about scams that I fall victim to myself, but never have I found myself covering a scam operated by a bald SoundCloud rapper. And I don't think I can say that any other scam has ever stretched the fibers of my anus and fucked me harder than this one has. I'm fairly certain at least a small handful of you people are familiar with Danny Towers, who is a SoundCloud rapper very closely affiliated with Ski Mask the Slump God and DJ Scheme, even X when he was alive. Some of you may not know his name per se, but a lot of you are probably familiar with the song of his that blew up on TikTok around a year or two ago with DJ Scheme and Lil Yachty.
Danny, how you feel? I feel great. Hit it with a sock.
But little did I know while watching, Danny Towers and his, eventual rise to fame, that, somewhere along down the road, he would eventually rob me for $1,000 of my hard-earned money. And, I'm going to explain the whole situation in detail. I'm going to give you all a timeline and everything. But, one thing I can say, one thing I don't think I am able to deny, is Danny Towers, he's a fine and talented musician. I don't think there's any questioning that.
Never like a little pipes we trust. I could probably get a dyke.
Which is why I was interested in a feature from him in the first place. Now, another thing I do want to get out of the way is that I mean absolutely no disrespect to Danny Towers or his team or anybody affiliated with him or the situation. I mean no disrespect. I have no malicious intent. All I'm doing here is simply bringing awareness to the people to prevent other people from getting scammed in the future. That's it. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take you all back, way back to, mid-2021. So around summer of 2021, I began work on a new album, a new project. This was the first big release that I had ever really teased publicly. I had definitely released, albums before, but nothing that I really had an entire rollout for. Nothing I had really, had a bunch of big guest features to come on. So this was the first, major album that I was going to, preview and eventually roll out. It was the hardest album by far that I've ever had to make. It had the most work put behind it. It had the, largest team behind it. Despite me doing, the production and the engineering, there was still a lot of, other people I collaborated with on the production, and especially features and verses and choruses and things like that, guest vocals. And so I started working on this album around summer of 2021. And, I gave myself a budget. The budget was not an insanely high amount. I'm pretty sure it was around $3,000, if I recall correctly. But I gave myself a budget, and I worked on this album, week in and week out, for several months until around, mid-October, when I decided, it's about time to find some guest features to put on this project. A lot of the features were people I know personally, members of YFS or Madman Studios, which I've been a part of for several years now. But I also decided, maybe I should have a few, bigger name features to put on this project as well. Nothing major, nobody insanely famous, but I hit up Lil B, who eventually, came through with a verse. I paid him his feature price, and he delivered a verse through, and we put that on the album as well. Great track, no issues there. And then I made the mistake of hitting up Danny Towers towards the very end of my album making process, and I asked him if he would grace me with a feature to put on the final track that I had not finished yet of the album. Spoiler alert, he did not give me anything, despite me paying him, but I'm gonna take you through a nice array of DMs here that we exchanged over the course of, several months. This whole thing is, very shady. There are a lot of things that I, think that I could have done differently in this situation, maybe done some research before, just immediately accepting his feature price. Maybe I should have looked into it more, or identified some of the red flags that were all over the situation, but anyways, why don't we take a look at this now? So we had exchanged a few story shoutouts, in the beginning of 2020, but that's irrelevant to this whole situation. He posted a story in October saying, hit me up for feature prices, if you hit me up today, you'll get a discount, whatever. So, I decided to make the grave mistake of replying to his story and asking what his feature price was. He says, I normally charge $2,500, but if you pay now, I will bless you for $1K. And I tell him I'm just checking for right now, but I'm going to hit him back in the future, because at the time I was just checking the waters, seeing who would give me features for what prices, and what each feature interaction was going to be like. I was kind of just testing the water. So after waiting a week or two, I text him again. Are you willing to accept 1K still? I have a beat that I can send over right now, and my Cash App is ready. He asked me if I have Zelle. Long story short, my bank has issues with Zelle, so I couldn't use Zelle. And from what I've gathered, he's using these apps like Zelle and Cash App because those are the apps in particular that do not help you when you get scammed. They do not assist you in getting your money back versus things like Venmo and stuff. I mean, obviously all these apps, they could give two shits about you, but Zelle and Cash App are notorious for not getting you your money back in these kind of scenarios. And I was foolish enough to use Cash App too. He tells me I can do Cash App. Hold on, I'm gonna have you send it to my assistant. So he has me send $500 in two separate payments to whoever the fuck this is, which links to this Instagram account. So then I realize that the Cash App address he gives me is some random fucking woman. So then I tell him I sent 500 over and I have to send the other 500 tomorrow. Long story short, I don't have this bank anymore, but the bank I was using at the time was an extraordinarily shitty bank. So I had to tell him, long story short, I had to send him two different payments, and I did. Fast forward, I tell him I just sent the other 500 over. I sent the beat to you as well. I tell him, the details of where his part would be within the beat, and I say I have to turn the album by December 1st. This is the day that I have to turn in the album, right? I said this on November 9th. So I give him a month. I give him almost a month. Should be enough. I could record a song. I could record several songs in a day if I wanted to. So I say, I have to turn in the album by December 1st. Do you think you can have it done by then? I'm not telling him it has to be done by then. I'm just asking him, do you think you can have it done before then? He says, yes, I got you. I ask him about the mixing and mastering. He says he wants me to handle that because it's my song, understandably so. Just wanted to make sure. I check with him a couple days later here, just verifying that he received the beat because there was a message saying that one of his email addresses was full. So I decided to send it elsewhere. He says, yes, I got the beat. So then a few weeks pass by. It's now November 24th. I say, just letting you know, I gotta submit this album 1 week from today. And I was wondering if you're still able to deliver the feature by then. No rush. He says, yep. Got you. I wonder if that happened. Then I tell him on December 1st, this is the day that I'm supposed to submit the album. Hey, I'm supposed to submit the album today through a label I'm partnering with. Do you have anything? I told the manager I'd upload it today, and this is the last song I gotta finish. I might be able to tell him that I could postpone the album, but ideally the album would drop on the 11th because the 11th was my 18th birthday, which is why I wanted to submit it by the 1st because, the streaming services have to, process it and everything. So I say it's possible that I can, delay it a little bit, but I want to have it out on the 11th. So then he says, I got you, G. That does not answer my question at all. But whatever. So then I ask him again, so are you going to have it today, or do you want me to postpone the album is what I need to know. He tells me he can have it to me by the weekend. Now this is on December 1st, which was a Wednesday. So by the weekend would be the 4th, which was Saturday, maybe Sunday the 5th. The 5th rolls around, I say, well, I guess I'm going to have to delay the album. I'll let the team know, and you get back with the feature whenever you can. And he says nothing. The album release date rolls by. I haven't released anything, so I have to issue a public announcement saying that, I have to delay this album now because it's not complete. There's an unfinished song on it that I have to get through. Long story short, the song never ended up getting finished anyway. I just found a new song to make that, still fit, my image, my artistic image of what I wanted the album to be. Just without Danny Towers on it, I guess. Then I tell him I'm just updating you, letting you know I'm going to go ahead and release this album without our track on it, so there's no longer a time crunch. Plan on releasing it as a single whenever you got it. I ended up releasing this album on New Year's Day of 2022, January 1st. It was several weeks late, supposed to, again, release on the 11th of December, but I ended up releasing it almost a month late, which, already affected my numbers enough as it is. But on top of that, I gave him $1,000 for this, and not only did I give him $1,000 for the feature, but I gave him $1,000 with the terms that he would get it to me by a specific date, and he did not. In fact, he didn't get it to me at all. So then February 1st rolls around. I realize it's been several months since, I've paid $1,000 fucking dollars for this feature and got nothing. Didn't get it on time, didn't get it at all. Still haven't gotten it to this day. I tell him, what's up? Hope all is going well with you. I haven't heard anything. in several months, and I was just wondering if this is still going down. If not, it would be great if you let me know so maybe I can get my money back. I tell him, you know, if I can't get anything from the $1,000 I sent you, it would still be a great use to me. I make sure to emphasize to him that there's no bad blood, there's no disrespect here, I have no beef with him or anything of that sort. And he replies with, yes, 100% gonna do it. I got you, fam. It is now almost 2 months since he said that, and I've still received nothing, right? Now, if this was just like me, if I was the only person that experienced this, I wouldn't be bitching about this that much. I probably wouldn't even be making this video. But Danny Towers has a notorious history of scamming other people when it comes to features. You know, the fact that I'm using Reddit here as my first example should say a lot to you about the situation. But this guy says, by no means am I trying to direct hate towards Danny for this. Hey, neither am I. Neither am I. I've made that perfectly clear. But I just wanted to warn anyone who wanted to buy a feature from him, and I didn't know anywhere else where I could spread this info. I hit him back up in May for a feature, and he said he'd give me a deal, which is exactly what the fuck he did to me. He told me he'd give me a fucking discount, and then molested me for all of my money. He said he'd give me a deal and cut his rate for me. I know that's my mistake. It was my mistake too, and I was just so excited that he even messaged back that I continued. Then he wanted me to pay on Cash App, and they, again, like I said, they don't help you get your money back. Fast forward to today, September. It has been several months and he's shown no signs of working on it, and he has only offered empty promises of completing it, of completing his part of the deal. And that's exactly what he's doing to me as well. It seems like this is a common reoccurrence with, you know, smaller artists who want him to feature on their tracks. I know he posts every so often about features. Yes, that's also true. He posts, at least from what I've seen, he posts very frequently telling people on his story, hey, hit me up for features and stuff like that. So he's doing this very consistently. And I know for a fact he is not, you know, going through with these features as he says he does, because if you look at his Apple Music, he does not have that many frequent, he does not have the amount of frequent features releasing as he is, you know, showing himself to advertise as on his Instagram story. He'll go on his Instagram story, he'll advertise, you know, he'll say, hey, hit me up for a feature. He'll say that like every week or, you know, around there. But if you look at his Apple Music, a feature with him only drops like every few months or so. These two songs here were up when I was asking him for this feature. He dropped this in January and he dropped this here in March. So he is obviously not, you know, coming through with features as consistently as he is making it seem that he does on his Instagram story, asking literally week after week after week, sometimes days in a row, and only putting one out every few months. There's something fishy about that. And it's hard to say, you know, like how he picks and chooses which features to be on. Maybe these are features that have paid him such a drastic amount of money that if he legitimately robbed them in this scenario, there would be like, you know, actual lawsuits floating around. Who the fuck knows? Even I considered bringing him to like small claims court or some shit. And he goes on to say that another artist on Instagram hit him up and told them the exact same thing happened to him. For that artist, it had been around a year since he bought the feature and still nothing. And again, this is 2 years ago when he posted this. This person warns that he could have bought from a fake one, or, you know, somebody posing as Danny Towers, but just like me, we are messaging with his verified Instagram account. And a full 2 years ago, he says, be patient, he'll do it, and I'll keep you guys updated if he does do it. And that was 2 years ago, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are now, and he's still doing the same thing to me. But another thing I'd like to look into is this track called Sadistic by Pegasus, where it's kind of like a diss track on Danny Towers, or at least, you know, a good portion of it is a diss to Danny Towers. Essentially, Danny Towers did the exact same thing to Pegasus, where he asked for a feature, Danny Towers got paid for the feature, and then sat on his ass and did nothing. It says he planned to lab with Orlando's own Danny Towers, but was ultimately scammed after waiting a year for a feature, and another lab, Pegasus, shut the door for negotiations. Then he dropped a diss track publicly calling Danny Towers out, and Danny Towers did respond over Instagram pleading to get the song taken down, even returning partial payment to Pegasus, though it wasn't worth much as Pegasus is now working on an album, blah 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 blah. Basically, ladies and gentlemen, that is just 2 examples of people Danny Towers has done this to, at least 2 people publicly speaking out about this issue, because who knows how many people have, you know, fallen victim to this that just haven't said anything, or at least haven't, you know, released an audience or anything that would pick up on what they're saying. This is just 2 examples of people publicly speaking out, and this happened in 2020. Long story short, ladies and gentlemen, I paid this fat shit $1,000 of my hard-earned fucking money. He proceeded to give me nothing, and it has now been several months since the deadline of when I asked for this track to be delivered to me. You know, I don't think I'm willing to negotiate anymore. if he's willing to give my money back, great. I will gladly even take down this video. Again, no harassment to Danny Towers. I do not wish to tarnish his name or his character in any way with this video. I just hope that you all look out in the future for, you know, situations just like this. And honestly, if I'm giving my honest opinion, I would refrain from collaborating with Danny Towers in the future whatsoever. That's not based on malicious intent. That is just based off of what I have gathered from the best of my knowledge from this entire situation. Because now I have wasted $1,000 of my own money that I could have spent on something, you know, actually valuable, or something that I actually receive. Maybe paying bills. Maybe paying an actual artist who will actually deliver, you know, their part to me. You know, anything. But no, I wasted it on Danny Towers sending money to his assistant. If that really was his assistant, I don't even fucking know. But ladies and gentlemen, that's how I got robbed. Sorry there hasn't been any videos for a while. I'll pick up on that soon. You guys have a good one. See you all in the next video, and fuck Danny Towers, I guess.